name?
Mario.
Last name?
Mario.
Okay, what's your name?
Luigi.
Luigi?
Hey there, Enthusiacs. Welcome back to the Real Hero Talk podcast. I am your host, Judge Greg, and joining me today in the hallowed halls of Hero Talk, straight from the Video Game Generations podcast, I have Mike. Mike, welcome to Hero Talk.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here. First time for me.
Excellent. It's always good to have a first-timer on. So real quick before we get into this film, and I'm just stalling at this point because I don't want to get into this film, could you just give us a rundown of what the Video Game Generations podcast is and what you do?
Well, it's a shadow of what it used to be. It's a video game podcast where me and my daughter used to talk about games and new releases and what we're playing. And we did that for almost 3 years, and she just kind of got bored. She's young. She was 8 when we started, and she's 11 now, almost 12. And she has friends. She has things to do. She has sports. So it kind of fizzled out. I keep doing it, though, like about maybe once a month. I put out an episode that's just reviews. So if you want to hear about video games and basically just one person talking and it's reviews, then that's what I'm doing currently. So that's it.
I like to think of your show as sort of in a format transition because
it is. I hope to transition back someday.
Yeah.
I have a son that would like to do it, but he's a little bit too young.
I having heard him on the podcast, I agree with your assessment.
He's not there yet. He can't hold a topic for very long.
Yeah, he's definitely a lot of reading ahead in the notes going on there.
Yes. Yeah.
But so your daughter was what first drew me to the podcast, and I'm about to understand how creepy this is going to come out initially. So wait for the explanation. So Initially, your daughter's what drew me to your podcast. All right. Now we're going to back that up. Let me explain what I mean. So she had just this natural energy and charisma, and especially for her age. I think I started listening. She must have been 9 when I started.
Yeah,
that sounds about
so.
Yeah. And I was just very amazed with how, because I love the premise, because it was a dad and his daughter, and I got 2 girls, and I was like, I ought to be listening to this, because we had been following each other on Twitter for a while before I eventually listened, and I was just impressed with just how well it worked and how it flowed and how charming she was and the charisma. And I remember thinking to myself then, because I'd been doing Hero Talk for a while, I thought, like, she could do naturally what some people like. They kill themselves trying to learn the kind of skills that she's just doing at 8 because it's fun.
Yeah. Because to her there was no pressure. Mm-hmm. I think that's what it was.
Yeah. So whether she realized it or not, probably later in life she's going to be able to draw upon being on the show for all those years, and it's gonna
that would be nice.
It'll be help her to do presentations or stand up in front of people. And
I've told her that she can, as she gets older, she can say, "Look, I did a podcast for 3 years. I mean, I was sort of a radio person, not exactly, but yeah."
Yeah. So anyway, that's the Video Game Generations podcast in a transitional period. All right. I guess we got to do this, don't we, Mike?
Yeah. We set today. If we don't do it today, we're never going to do it. It sounded like a good idea because this is one of the movies. I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, but this is one of the movies that kind of, it sparked video game movies in general. So
it did. I have not confirmed this personally, but a lot of people claim that this was the first video game movie.
I would be surprised if that's true, but I could believe it.
I mean, video games weren't all that old, and it wasn't like Pong was going to generate any decent movies.
Yeah, and there wasn't a lot to draw from in video games then. They didn't have stories. They didn't. They were Mario. That's what it was.
They were Mario. Speaking of Mario, today's film is Super Mario Brothers, the film, the 1993 action adventure rom-com mess of a movie.
It's a movie. It was a movie that came out.
It is a movie. It was released in 1993, and it starred people, and we're going to talk about it. Okay.
It starred some decent people, surprising.
So this movie, there was a lot going against this movie, to be perfectly honest. There are 3 writing credits that I can find on IMDb, and I have heard talk that there were at least 7 uncredited rewrites of it, and possibly more than that, even to the point where Daly, daily there would be new pages for the actors, and they stopped even paying attention, and they just started just doing whatever they wanted to do.
Well, you see it, and that is not surprising. I didn't know any of that, but it's a mess, and it's probably a mess for a reason like that.
Oh, it is a mess. Now, what I don't understand, I saw this movie in the theaters.
Sorry.
When I was growing up, I was right in their key demographic. I think I would have been early high school maybe when this was coming out, and so I was right there in the people. This is the new Super Nintendo had just come out.
Yep.
And
Super Mario World had just come out maybe the prior year.
Yeah. So and that
was a couple
was
years ago.
A huge game, still considered a classic, still holds up. So it was. I mean, it was time. It was time to make a Mario movie. The iron was hot. Somebody had approached them, and I find out there's gonna be a Mario Brothers movie. I saw the poster in the theater, and I got so excited.
Mm-hmm.
And opening night, I was in the theater to watch this movie.
Yeah, I would have been too. I was a little bit too old. I was in college.
Yeah.
So.
And
it just didn't work out.
Yeah. But I did. I was there opening night, and I saw this movie, and I walked out, and I thought to myself, what did I just watch?
You weren't impressed.
It was even then, even that young, even when, I was ready to love it. I remember thinking like, that wasn't a very good movie. I don't understand it. There wasn't a lot of Mario Brothers to it. Somebody asked me at school the next Monday. They said, "Well, did you see Mario Brothers? How was it?" And I said there was an awful lot of really loose evolutionary science in it.
Yeah, and some people claiming to be Marios.
Yeah. Oh boy. And so we'll get further down the line into the trail of my disappointment. But...
You were in high school, right?
Yeah.
You said high school. Mm-hmm. You were already past the demographic for this movie because it's for young kids. It's not even for anyone with intelligence.
I feel like this was for maybe 7 or 8 year olds, maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
Because
in fact, my kids watched this with me and they got a kick out of it. So they either are young or have no taste.
Wait, you showed this to your children?
I know I'm the worst father ever, but yes. In fact, my one daughter watched it twice.
Oh my goodness.
Yep, my youngest.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I mean, it gives them a benchmark.
It does. They get to say from now on that they've seen this movie because.
Yes.
I mean, there were people in our. I threw up a teaser on Twitter yesterday, which exploded. I can't believe that happened.
Well, you actually had people interested in seeing it.
Right. I had people, Enthusiacs Kinetic saying, "Oh, I want to be in on this one." I was like, really? And then, so one of our other enthusiasts, the Dark Princess Jen, she actually had never even heard of this movie before.
That's surprising. I thought this was infamous.
I thought it was too. I want to say she's been on a Hero Talk where I've mentioned this film because this film gets brought up on Hero Talk from time to time. So anyway, but what I was really surprised with is the number of people who came out in support of the movie and said, "Oh, I think this is a favorite."
Oh man, no, there are movies like that they're so bad they're good. I can't think of too many examples off the top of my head, but there's problems and quirks, but there's so many quotable lines, and there's like scenes that even though they're cheesy or dumb, you like. This movie has none of that stuff. This is there's nothing to redeem it. There's nothing to make it a classic at all. So I'm surprised anyone would defend it.
I mean, if it helps, I think all the people who said that to us would have probably been younger than we were when we saw this movie.
Seen it lately, probably.
And yeah, maybe haven't seen it lately, or maybe they have. But nostalgia is a powerful thing.
Well, that's true.
There are movies that I can pull from when I was younger that I still love, even though I can say they're objectively pretty bad movies. Dolph Lundgren's Masters of the Universe, right off the top of my head.
Yeah, for me it might be maybe like Batman Returns or Batman and Robin. Those are horrific, but I watched them at a time where I thought that they were pretty cool. And actually it was probably around the same time as Mario.
Yeah, I think...
but I didn't. This one didn't do anything for me, so I don't know.
Yeah. Man, Batman Returns. I watched that for a Hero Talk, and I remembered it being so much better than it was, and it broke my heart.
I watched it several times in the theater, I think, but I don't know. I don't know why I did that.
Yeah. All right. So we gotta get to it, I suppose. Before we get any further, I just want to let everyone know this movie is like so old. We are a spoiler podcast, so nothing is off the table. Everything is fair game. You've been warned. So if you haven't seen Super Mario Brothers the film, we're gonna spoil it. Yeah, if that's even possible.
This is gonna be more fun than seeing the movie. So
yeah, and We might even have a longer runtime. Who knows?
Yeah, probably.
All right. So let's dive into the cast. Now, you mentioned it. This had a phenomenal cast.
Yeah. Even a surprising guest star.
Yes. So Bob Hoskins, a Hero Talk favorite. We have gone on and on about this guy. One of my favorite actors. My first ever Hero Talk was Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, I've seen Who Framed Roger Rabbit a couple of times. It's not one of my favorite movies, but what else? He wasn't in Brazil, was he? Am I thinking of something else?
Brazil? Oh, I'm trying to think.
I don't think he was in Brazil.
He was in Hook.
Okay. Who was he in Hook? Was he Shmee?
Mr. Smee, that's right.
Okay.
He was in Enemy at the Gates. I think he played a Russian soldier. He was in Brazil, that's right.
Okay. I thought he was.
He was in Brazil. He was in, I can't remember the movie, but it was, I think, him and Wesley Snipes, and he got like a heart transplant so he could see the ghost of Wesley Snipes.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
But I don't know what that is.
Let's see, what else was he in? Oh, so he was in the movie. It had a different title overseas. So I want to say it was Unleashed in the States, and it was Danny the Dog overseas. But it was him and Jet Li.
Okay, yeah, I haven't heard of that one.
And Morgan Freeman was in that movie, too.
Yeah, well, this was, I mean, by far he admits it. I think I was looking at him on Wikipedia, and apparently he regrets even doing this movie.
He does.
Right.
It's one of his he's one of his biggest regrets. And bear in mind that he was in Son of the Mask.
Oh, that Jim Carrey?
No, Jim Carrey wasn't in the sequel to Son of the Mask, so that was I think Jamie. It was the same universe, yeah, but it was I think starring Jamie Kennedy, and he played Odin, the Norse god Odin.
Okay.
So him and Anthony Hopkins have that in common.
For this to be his biggest regret, I mean, he says this is like the worst. He says it's the worst thing he ever did.
The worst thing he ever did. Also, he has credits in Garfield 2.
Okay.
So,
well, that's saying a lot.
I mean, when he says the worst thing he ever did, he's putting it in perspective. Oh, Spice World. I forgot he was in Spice World.
Oh, was he?
He was.
Okay. Was that Brad Pitt movie, right? With
No, Spice World, as in the Spice Girls.
Oh, that one. What was I thinking? Cool World.
You were thinking Cool World. Yeah, that was the Brad Pitt
Spice
movie.
World was okay. He would have just been. He had a small part, maybe a cameo or something in that, or was he?
I want to say he was actually a relatively. He was an important
Like an
part,
important
but I don't think he
character?
was a big part. Yeah. He played J. Edgar Hoover in Nixon, so huge career. I mean, he'd been around for.
Okay.
He'd been, all right. So we're not going to list everything he's done. He's been in a ton of stuff, but obviously very accomplished actor. Now there was some other names that were actually associated with playing Mario, and I think at one point they were interested in Tom Hanks playing Mario.
Oh, how that would have okay. I mean, I guess he smartly declined.
I think the idea is that he would have been probably too expensive, and so they didn't know if it would. There's conflicting reports. I've heard stories that they thought that he couldn't carry a big movie because he hadn't exploded at that point in time.
Oh, was that was back like pre-big, or was it?
Like
maybe Splash.
I think around Splash time frame, maybe.
Okay.
And then I heard some talks that he was just too expensive because those movies had just come out and he was expecting to be a big star, and so he was going to be asking for more money, and they thought they could be more profitable with Bob Hoskins.
I don't see him as especially not back then as a Mario.
No,
I couldn't have seen that anyway.
Danny DeVito at one point was
that might have maybe
he was going to play Mario and direct the film, but he wanted to read the script, and after he read the script, he declined. Which sounds about right.
Yeah. I think the rest of these people got duped into it.
Yeah.
I don't think any of them read the script.
Bob Hoskins had no idea what Mario was.
Okay. Well, I mean, it shows in the movie, too, because he plays half of it without even seeming like Mario. I mean, he's not doing anything heroic, and he's trying to basically run away from the action. So
yeah, well, I mean some of that is script,
that's true.
Yeah, I remember when he was cast, because I was such a fan of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I thought it was great casting to have him.
Seemed like it would have
Mario. It seemed spot on when you see him with the mustache.
Mm-hmm.
And in all the promos they showed him wearing red, even though in the actual movie we were 1 hour.
Very minimal.
I checked the timestamp. We were 1 hour in the movie before Mario wore the slightest lick of red.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was in a yellow. No, that was Luigi. He was in a.
No, he was
blue suit for a while.
He was in yellow. Luigi was in red, just to stick it to us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to kind of tease us until they finally put him in their jumpsuits.
Yeah, I really think they should have gone. It should have been like the Power Rangers. Like everything that Mario wore should have had some tinge of red to it, and everything Luigi wore should have been some shade of green.
Oh, right, yeah. And I was surprised, like when my kids were watching it, they were asking me, is that Luigi? Because there was nothing iconic about the way the character was presented until very late in the movie.
Yeah, so moving on to Luigi, might as well, played by John Leguizamo, who's an underrated actor, but he's been around. I mean, he did a lot of stuff. He's voice work in Ice Age. He was in that modern Romeo and Juliet, the one with Leo DiCaprio and Claire Danes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he played, hang on. I'm not going to look it up. I'm going to remember it. Tybalt. He played Tybalt.
Okay. He was in Moulin Rouge.
He was in Moulin Rouge. Let's see. He did a movie called The Babysitter, which I saw on Netflix, and I think that was straight to video. And he was good in it, but that was not a good movie.
Okay.
He was the clown from Spawn.
Okay.
I want to say the clown was his name, maybe Crazy Clown, Psycho Clown, something like that. But he wore a big giant fat suit, and he was the clown in Spawn.
Wow. I think of all the characters, all the actors in this movie, I think he probably made the best of a bad situation.
He did. There are reports that at some point in time, him and Bob Hoskins figured out that this movie is probably going to be awful. And there was a lot of reports that they just started drinking on set with each other.
Oh my God. Wow.
In fact, to the extent that it's believed, so he broke his leg in the course of filming it because he was hit by a car that was driving by for one of the scenes, and a lot of people think it happened because he was so drunk he just kind of wandered in front of it.
Didn't get out of the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I would have never guessed because of everyone. There were a couple of, and again, probably due to the script more than anything, but I thought he pulled it off better than anybody as far as being Luigi. I mean, to me, Luigi was the star of the movie.
They really did.
It was about
yeah.
Luigi.
He was the star. There's no doubt. I mean, they even Luigi was with the princess, and they were it was all about him believing, and he was very much the protagonist, which.
Yeah.
Was a weird way to take the movie, and even back when I saw it in theaters, I thought was a really weird direction to go with the Player 2 character.
Yeah, I agree, but he's the one that basically drove the plot along. It was him wanting to chase after Daisy. It was him wanting to take risks, which is not the Luigi in the video games. The Luigi in the video games is a scaredy cat.
He is. He does not want to go along. Mario's the one charging ahead, saying we got to save the princess. So as much as you want to say he made the best of a bad thing, I will never forgive him for not growing a mustache for this movie.
Was that a conscious decision, or
I don't know. I don't know what happened. It was. I mean, you have to think he actually was aware of the games. He knew about them, so he knew Luigi had a mustache.
Yeah,
so,
and even back then, there wasn't much from the games to draw on, but, in the first Mario, Luigi was just a palette swap of Mario, so they would have both had a mustache.
Yeah, but, I mean, Super Mario 2 is when they actually had defined characters for each one of them, and he still definitively had a mustache. And wasn't the Super Mario Brothers Super Show was out around then, too?
Watched a fair bit of that myself.
So, Luigi also had a mustache in that one.
Yeah.
And that we had Captain Lou Albano as Mario.
It's funny you bring that not Captain Lou, but it's funny you bring up the mustache because I didn't even get that. Like, it didn't even occur to me, where's Luigi's mustache? But yeah, absolutely right.
It drove me nuts. It drove me nuts back then, still drives me nuts now. And I've seen him with a mustache, and if you see him with a mustache, you think, see, I can believe you as Luigi now.
Okay, yeah. I mean, he other than, being a little bit too brave, I think he pulled it off. I just didn't even notice the mustache.
I had no issues with his acting as Luigi. I mean, I'm sure the script had something to do with it.
Sure, yeah.
But, I mean, he was definitely, he was Luigi. I could see him putting his heart into it. God bless him, but...
And that's why I say I think that he did the best with what was there. So that's my take on him.
And also, I wonder if, so we've already discussed that he might have been drunk when he broke his leg. But he also at one point slammed Bob Hoskins' hand in the Mario Brothers van and broke one of his fingers. Wonder if alcohol was involved there as well.
I don't know. For all I know, the entire production staff was drunk for this because I don't know.
There are reports. Apparently, at one point in time, when it was starting to go over budget and things were going south and the movie wasn't very good, the director's agent, so it was directed by, let me give their names so they can be shamed appropriately, for Rocky Morton and Annabelle Jankel. It's a husband and wife. And their agent basically said to them, this thing is going to go bad. You need to get away from it before, it reflects poorly on you. And they eventually stopped showing up on set.
They gave up?
Yeah, literally, the directors gave up on the movie to the point where I want to say it was the editor or the the director of photography, I want to say. Yeah, maybe it was him. He tried to finish the movie for them.
Wow. I'm glad you have all this information, because in the back of my mind, I envisioned something completely different. I envisioned them, wrapping production on this and then doing their after cast party and everyone just high-fiving like, oh my gosh, we did it. Best movie ever. This is awesome. So it sounds like, no, they knew what was going on.
I'm actually trying to find out who actually did come by to finish the film, because the just going on with how bad this movie was. So the director of photography, he was actually fired by the directors, and another guy came in to replace him. And then that guy said, "This was a mistake. I should have never come aboard this movie."
Wow. Oh my. I mean, it sounds like more of a train wreck than I even suspected that it was. It's amazing that it got made. It's amazing that it got finished.
It almost felt like at the point where they said, "We've already put so much money into this. Let's just release it." And it's Mario. Somebody's going to show up and watch it. And
they probably did. I
mean, I did. It's a cult classic. There are still people out there who are staunch supporters of this film.
Yeah.
But, I mean, when
you would have had to been there, you would have had to, and you would have had to been young, I think.
I guess.
Very young.
I mean, it was a mess with all the rewrites. The director stopped showing up. Somebody trying to step in.
Drunk.
The cast is drinking because they don't care. They're not even reading the rewrites that are happening almost daily to the script.
Oh boy.
And so I've said this before, and this is worth bringing up as long as we're just talking about whatever. I often was wondering why there was so much Blade Runner in this movie.
Okay.
Because, I mean, I felt there was like a really big there's actually a Blade Runner connection. One of the product designers who was trying to create Dino Hatton and whatnot, he was an art director in Blade Runner.
Okay, and I never even got that. Blade Runner was another one that I've seen maybe once.
Okay.
So I probably wouldn't have noticed the connection, but that makes sense. It's a hodgepodge of things for sure.
Yeah, it was. I mean, this was just a comedy of errors that I don't know. I don't know if there was anything that was going to save it once it got down a bad path. You know what I mean? It was just.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like I would say blame it on the script, because obviously even the story wasn't really great, but it sounds like the story was an evolving thing as it went along anyway.
So apparently there was an initial script that was going to be more about like the fantasy elements of the Mushroom Kingdom, and it was focusing a lot on the relationship between Mario and Luigi, and I think Hildy would have been the name of the princess. We weren't calling her Peach yet. That didn't happen until the N64.
Right. Yeah. They grabbed Daisy from probably the Game Boy Advance, or the Game Boy game.
Yeah, the Game Boy
Mario,
game. Super Mario Land, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's where that
came from. Koopa was still Koopa. He wasn't Bowser.
No, they didn't call him Bowser. I thought he was Bowser even back in the first game.
I don't think so. They just called him King Koopa. You know what? A lot of that may have come from the cartoon. I don't know how much they grabbed from like the Super Mario Super Show, but I think he was Bowser. Well, I don't know if he's Bowser in that. I think they called him Koopa in that. Pretty sure they did.
I wanted to say, like back in the old Nintendo game, if you read the instruction manual, they actually referred to him
called him Bowser.
As Bowser.
I would have thought by Super Mario World he was Bowser, because I think that's where they introduced Iggy and Spike and his cousins.
The cousins were introduced in Super Mario 3.
Oh, were they?
Yes.
Okay. I played them out of order.
Yeah. Now I'm racking my brain. I want to say they were all introduced in Super Mario 3, and then they all got renamed in Super Mario World, but it was the same characters.
Okay.
They just named them different stuff.
Very possible. I think in World, each one was a level boss, right? Or a world boss.
Right. And I want to say in 3, they were either also a level boss or they were a mid-level boss.
Okay.
But yeah, it was the similar thing, because in 3 you were trying to get all these special magic wands, and so each one of them had a magic wand, and they did different powers and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think you're right.
Yeah. So, but we didn't get the full pantheon of the Koopa cousins. We only got Iggy and Spike.
Mm-hmm. Which was more than enough.
Yeah, played by Richard Edson and Fisher Stevens. So I've looked through these guys' IMDb, and there's nothing really, worth looking at. I would say, so Fisher Stevens, who played Iggy, was in Short Circuit 2.
Yep, that's where I knew him from. I was like, this guy, this is the character he always is.
Yeah,
or
and Short Circuit 1, yeah.
Yeah, he's always the comic relief.
Yeah, so I saw Short Circuit 2 first, so that's kind of where my head
did?
Yeah.
I love Short Circuit 1. Was kind of disappointed by 2.
I saw 2 first, and I remember kind of thinking, because I would have been relatively young around that time, thinking, I don't get it. How's this robot just alive and we're all okay with it?
Okay.
And then it didn't occur to me.
Did you not realize you were watching a sequel at the time?
I saw it on TV.
Okay.
But
maybe
yeah,
missed the first minute of it or something.
Yeah. So, but he's got a full IMDb. He's working. He's in stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been on the blacklist up until even this year. He was in The Good Fight. He did his Law and Order stints. He played a couple of characters in Law and Order because everyone goes back there more than once. Was a voice in The Legend of Korra. So this guy's been around.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than him with Johnny Five, I just couldn't really picture him.
Yeah, and I had to look the same thing up, but I thought I had seen him in other things, but maybe it's just this and Short Circuit that I remember.
So Richard Edson, who plays Spike, so I looked him up. He's been in so much stuff I've seen, and I cannot picture him in any of these movies.
No, I agree. I couldn't place him either.
I mean, we're talking Good Morning Vietnam, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Platoon. Like seriously, like these were major movies.
Did he just like walk by the camera or something?
I don't know. Even the characters don't sound familiar. You know, I don't know what happened there, but I guess.
Well, I mean, they to me they at least pulled off the spirit of these cousin characters. I mean, they for what it's worth, they
did. Although now I'm required to point out that the square root of 26,481 is not 191.
Is it not? I didn't even think about that.
Of course I did that. Of course I did. The second he said it. No, it's like 162 and change.
Well, they didn't get any smart. Their idea of being smarter was adding, what was it they added at the end of a sentence? Like, I made a note of it somewhere. But they didn't get smarter when they got smart.
They did not. They were allegedly...
They couldn't even drive a motorized cart without going over a cliff, and they were supposedly smart, so who knows?
The pro evolution, I guess. So at one point in time I asked, well, if Koopa can just super evolve, why doesn't he just super evolve himself? And then
that's what I was thinking.
I've justified it with well, when you see Iggy and Spike, you realize it's not there yet. The technology's not quite there. That was an experiment.
An experiment that I remember what it was now. Is like they would add as it were, like hello,
as it were.
What's going on, as it were? It's like okay, you just can't add stuff.
And they would rehash what each was saying in a different way. Like one guy would say, "Perhaps it is time for retreating tactfully," and the other would turn back, like a tactful retreat. I concur. All right. You guys aren't actually smart. You're what an 8-year-old would think was smart.
Yeah, exactly. To an 8-year-old, they would seem smart until they prove themselves otherwise.
All right. So we've mentioned her. So let's get to Princess Daisy, or the princess of the Mushroom Kingdom, played by Samantha Mathis.
I don't know her. I mean, I can't think of anything that I'd seen her in before.
So she was in American Psycho, and I know that from research, but I can't remember who she played. I
don't either.
The character's name was Courtney, and I can't remember if that was... I don't think that was the secretary. It might have been one of the girls that Patrick knew. The one thing I do remember her in, and I'm not super proud of this, is she was in Little Women, and she played...
I didn't see that.
She played older Amy, so she was the adult version of Kirsten Dunst's character.
Okay. I looked her up a little, and it seems like she's still doing stuff. But...
She is. She has like four things in post-production right now for release this year.
Wow.
And she was in the TV series The Strain, an episode of The Good Wife.
TV. It seemed like a lot of TV.
It was a lot of TV. I'm trying to think if she was in anything else that was...
So I wonder, was this her first gig, or, I mean...
No, she's got credits going all the way back to the 80s.
Okay.
Now, I don't remember her. Like, if you look it up, and I'm just going to scroll down to see if any of this sounds familiar. Aaron's Way, I have no idea what that is. The Circle of Love, which was a TV movie. I'm going to go ahead and say Lifetime. Night Watch, I couldn't tell you. Forbidden Sun was a movie. Forbidden Sun, I might have actually seen that. That sounds familiar.
Huh. Well, I mean, that's kind of sad because this was probably her big break. This was like, oh my gosh, I'm in the Super Mario. I'm in Super Mario. So.
Oh, she was. Oh, this is what I was looking for. She was the voice of Krista in Fern Gully.
Okay. All right.
So, I guess this would have been. I mean, this is other than Fern Gully. This was the big movie, and so this one, her face was actually in.
Yeah.
But it was terrible. I mean, but again, she showed up in Little Women at the end as I want to say old Amy, but it probably the character was 18, I think, when she was playing her, because Kirsten Dunst was quite young when Little Women came out.
Right. So basically just grown up.
Yeah, so just grown up.
Yeah, that was her big break, and she landed the Mario movie.
Yeah. Surprised it didn't kill more careers than it did, to be perfectly honest with you.
I'm surprised too.
I mean, this was a stinker. All right, so
I'm surprised Dennis Hopper went on to do anything after
Dennis
this.
Hopper. I don't know how they got Dennis Hopper to do King Koopa. Arnold Schwarzenegger at one point was approached to play King Koopa, and he turned it down.
Oh, wow. I can't even imagine that. I mean, at least Dennis Hopper, I mean, once you see him in the role, you kind of think, okay, he's a lot smaller than the Goombas, which is a weird thing, but okay.
And, all right, so I guess we need to... There is some soft science driving this movie.
Yeah.
And the idea that there are perfect humanoids that I'm supposed to believe have evolved from dinosaurs to look exactly indistinguishable from humans. And I want to say, like, it's like somebody didn't quite understand the actual theory behind evolution. They knew of evolution, and they came up with this fun concept for it.
It is for kids. Kids aren't going to know. You know? Kids will believe it. And not only that, but they can be de-evolved into slime or fungus.
Into the primordial ooze, yeah, because
that doesn't work. That's not...
Yeah, that's not actually how it's supposed to work. It's... Because there were times I was really starting to wonder, especially as I was watching it recently. I mean, because everyone in Dino City, I think it was called Dino Hatton, but I like Dino City better.
I thought it was just the Mushroom Kingdom or something.
They mentioned it was the Mushroom Kingdom, or at least Koopa said it, and he said it very dismissively, so I didn't think that was official name. I think Dino.
Did they ever say Sarasaland? Did they say anything like that?
I don't think
that was
they
where
ever did.
Daisy was from the game, but I don't know.
Probably not. I think they tried to.
No,
make
that would have been too much research. They obviously did just the minimum amount of research into the games. I think so that wouldn't have made sense.
Yeah, it was very very nominal research into the games, but for Dino Hatton, it was just everyone there seemed to be like fully aware of. 65 million years ago, the asteroid hit directly in Brooklyn.
Everyone knew about it.
Everyone knew about it. Oh, and that sent us into a parallel dimension that we're all fully aware of, and to the extent where I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, like, how old are these people? Like the same dinosaurs?
like it happened yesterday.
Yeah, they're talking like this was a thing that they're all fully aware of, and Koopa's like, I've evolved from the Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Oh, he went overboard explaining that. Like his first main scene with Lena.
Yeah,
is like he explained all of that as if
Lena had no idea what they were doing. Yeah.
Exactly, as if he was trying to remember himself or something. It's weird.
It was very, very clunky dialogue. We need that piece of the rock to complete the asteroid so we can merge both worlds.
And 65 million years ago, our planets were split in two, and the humans are running around on their part. And I just, okay, well, I mean, is there no other way at all that this could have been given to us than Koopa telling us in like a 130-minute dump or 30-second dump?
Just be careful what you ask for, because what you're asking for is another animated scene narrated by Dan Castellaneta. How do you say his name? Castellaneta.
Well, that wasn't the intro scene, was it?
Yeah.
Oh my God, it sounded like someone was forcing us to realize that they were from New York. Like that was the whole point of that beginning scene.
That beginning scene was awful. Apparently, there was more to that scene, and they cut it to that.
Wow.
So
well, I didn't know the name. I didn't know who was doing it. Was that the only time he showed up? I mean, as far as doing that little voiceover with just the intro?
That was it, just to narrate.
Okay, because I didn't get it. I was like, okay, I mean, I don't know what this is, but this person is like beating us over the head with the fact that they're from New York.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was the fact that it was even at the very beginning of the movie was just kind of throwing me off in terms of, okay, so
well, it wouldn't have been needed because Koopa fills us in on all of that.
Koopa says the exact same thing. I mean, he goes on. Anyway, the plan was never really clear, and everyone knew about the alternate dimensions. That was just a thing in Dino, and their world was like just Dino Hatton and then desert. I got the impression that was all it was.
Well, he spun a globe. It was all it was. I mean, unless he was lying about that, but yeah.
Anyway, so Dennis Hopper been in a ton of stuff. So the big ones, so he was in Speed, Apocalypse Now, Easy Rider, of course, was a huge one. So the late Dennis Hopper.
He was in Waterworld.
He was in Waterworld.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if that was a step up from this, but maybe a small one.
I don't know. We'll call that a lateral.
A lateral step. But they got him.
He was in George Romero's Land of the Dead.
Okay. A lot of people that should have known better.
I think I think Dennis Hopper probably. I think a lot of people's kids wanted them to do it. Honestly, they heard it was a Mario movie and wanted them to do it.
They forced him to do it.
Yeah, I remember when I saw Dennis Hopper was cast as Koopa. I'm thinking, are they gonna do prosthetics or I don't get it. And
no. They went a different direction. They went the cheap way, I guess.
A lot of the early production interviews, they said, well, even though he starts off as a human, he'll become more lizard-like as the movie goes on.
Oh, at the very end?
Yeah, like in the last 2 minutes of the movie, you mean?
Right before they demolish him and he becomes slime and never to be seen again.
So there was originally intended there was going to be a scene where I guess would have been Koopa in New York City. And it would have been, I think, probably on the Brooklyn Bridge. He would have had a large battle with Mario on the Brooklyn Bridge. And they ran out of money in the budget. And I think that's probably why it seemed like Mario didn't have a lot to do at the end of the movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he jumped in a bucket or something, didn't he? I think he did a small little battle. They
had a little standoff. But, I mean, when you really think about it, Mario wasn't really very integral in terms of the resolution of the movie. It was a lot of Daisy and Luigi.
Yeah, they were the ones at the meteor taking care of business, and he was just kind of messing around with Koopa.
Yeah, trusting the fungus and dropping bombs.
Yep, bombs branded as Reebok. So, okay. I don't know. Did you notice that?
I did.
How does that happen? How do you get Reebok in a parallel dimension that's not supposed to? I don't know. Plot holes. I got a list of plot holes.
No, I'm not even sure there was a plot for there to be holes in it.
Okay. Well, we have time. I'll tell you what.
We got some time.
Okay.
All right. But is there anybody else I want to talk about? I guess Fiona Shaw. We got to talk about Fiona Shaw.
Was that Lena?
That was Lena. So she's an Irish actress, probably most popular for playing Aunt Petunia in the Harry Potter movie series.
Oh, okay. Ding, ding, ding.
Yep.
Correct. I recognized her. I was like, who is this? But yeah, there you go.
Yep. That's I looked. Everything else from her IMDb is nothing that really struck out to me. So we're just gonna go with that's who she is. And that's who Lena was. I mean, the character who you talk about is not from any of the source material.
No, I wondered about that. I was like, was this like in the games? Was she one of the cousins or kids or something?
No, the kid would have been there was one girl in the Koopa Kids, and her name was Wendy.
Yep. No, that's not who this was. So they had to add some people, I guess.
I suppose. I mean, as a character, I was never really truly aware of her motivation. Was she jealous of Daisy? Did she want to take over for Koopa? Was she...
It sounded like she was infatuated with Koopa and upset that he just wouldn't let her help, I guess. I don't know.
But then when she gets the rock, she just decides to go rogue. And
I don't know. Yeah, that's a plot hole. How was she in the club? I have no idea. She just happened to be there when they were...
She came when they called the police. Because
okay, well, you've closed one of my plot holes.
Yep. Now let's not even talk about the plot hole of like initially when they show up and Koopa's like, plumbers, they have the rock? Find the plumbers. Oh, thanks Koopa.
Oh, just like any plumbers. Okay.
And then of course within like 5 minutes they find the plumbers because they had tools.
Yep. They just had tools. Yeah. No one has tools unless you're a plumber.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that.
Yeah, of course. Only plumbers walk around with tools. All right.
The only other character was Toad. I don't even know who this guy was, but he seemed confused to even be in the movie.
Yeah, I think he was just in for the first part of it because then I'm sure it was somebody else when he was Goombud.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Which still, and maybe we can talk about it later, but there were a few things that I could say, okay, they did something from the games. It's like, here's a little Easter egg or a little nod to the games, but there are so many missed opportunities. And one of them was with the character of Toad. I mean, I don't know. I could probably rant about that, but he couldn't have become a Goomba. He was like a fungus. He was a mushroom. There's no way he would have become.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, so the actor who played him was actually a musician, Mojo Nixon, so hired strictly so he could sing the song.
Okay, well, then that makes sense because the guy looked like he was out of his element. So.
Yeah, he truly was. And I don't think he quite understood what he was signing on for.
I don't think so.
I don't know if anyone could truly say they knew what they were signing on for.
No.
Let's see. Anybody else I want to talk about? So Dana Kaminsky played was the girlfriend of Mario, Daniela.
Daniela, yeah, which is weird because they could have went with Pauline.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Like, if you want to go ahead and say that Luigi and Daisy are going to be together, then the other interest for Mario Pauline would have made the most sense.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, they didn't even try, or maybe
They were really trying to drive home that they were Italian.
Yeah, I guess, but they could have done that with Pauline. I would think
they absolutely could have, but it wasn't a very good script. What do you want from me?
Yeah,
but
so she was okay. I mean, I didn't have a problem with Daniela, but she was just a side character. So.
Yeah, she just wasn't a whole lot in it, but I think she was in Big, and
okay.
There was a slight connection between Big and Tom Hanks in the movie, so I thought it was at least rounded out.
Okay.
But she hasn't been in a single thing since 1999, so.
Okay, well, she gave up.
Yeah, all right. Is there anybody else worth mentioning? Do we want to talk about Scapelli?
We can talk about the monkey he becomes, I guess.
Because that's how yeah. So Scapelli,
I don't know. Scarpelli did have my favorite quote from the movie. So
what was that?
Well, when Daisy says, "I'm the boss here," and he goes, "I'm Anthony Scarpelli. I'm the boss elsewhere."
Yeah,
because you have to hunt for good quotes.
Yeah. So I mean, I will give them credit. They wanted to have somebody who kind of seemed like a mobster and a shady businessman, and so they pulled Carlo from The Godfather.
Oh, is that who that or the inspiration, or was that actual?
No,
character?
he played Carlo in The Godfather.
Okay, I haven't seen that in forever. I wouldn't have remembered.
Yeah, so Gianni Russo is the actor played, and then he was, Rush Hour 2, Any Given Sunday, Seabiscuit.
Okay.
Ton of movies. 3,000
I didn't
Miles
know
to
that.
Graceland.
I didn't recognize him from anything.
I had to look up. I knew he was from The Godfather, but I'll go ahead and fully admit I didn't remember who he was from The Godfather. I just knew he was from The Godfather.
He was from it, yeah.
And Godfather 2, but anyway.
Okay, all right. So they got people in this movie. They really did, and
they did. I will say that the movie, the budget for the film was like $48 million, and when you look at the cast. And then the effects they did have to do, they were over budget, so I don't know what they were given. But they basically, they had a decent set of actors, and they did all right with the money they had. But
the sets, I thought the sets were pretty decent.
I had no issue with the sets, other than it didn't look anything like the Mushroom Kingdom.
Well,
but
except for Koopa's tower, there were those spiky things on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Have you noticed that? And then, in the boss levels, anytime you get into Koopa's castle in the games, it's like there's triangle or pyramid-shaped spikes basically on the wall. So I thought, okay, cool. There's a little bit of a throwback to the game. Like once you're in Koopa's domain, then that's what it looks like.
Yeah, there was if you watch the movie a couple of times, there were a lot of throwbacks to the game. Just little names tossed in there. Stomp boots. The little chargers for the stomp boots were bullet bills.
The bullet bills. I noticed the same thing. In the Thwomp, there was a Thwomp.
There was like a Thwomp store, a Thwomp cafe or something. Yeah, so...
Yep, and the light guns, I thought maybe, because they didn't have touchscreen back then, the Zapper.
They were the Super Scope 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't recognize them, but I figured, okay, well, that's probably some sort of a callback.
Yeah, I remember I actually recognized the gun right away when they pulled it. I'm like, that's the Super Scope 6. And you know what? That's pretty neat. To be perfectly honest, I thought that was a nice touch to actually use the guns from the Super Nintendo. Yeah. Yeah,
and that is cool. So they did a few things. I wasn't too impressed that they branded the bomb as Reebok, but other than that,
Yeah. The Babam was probably the most faithful thing to the games that came out of this, to be honest with you.
It's a little bit small, but yeah.
Yeah, not faithful to scale, but at least faithful in design.
Yeah. It'll just keep on coming until it gets to where it's going. It's going to blow up.
Mm-hmm. The only way it could have possibly been more faithful is if it started blinking first.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But everyone was afraid of it. Who created those things? Why would these exist?
I love how everyone was just freaked out when he had a bomb.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and the slime, the fungus kept trying to give him a bomb, and they weren't listening.
So, all right, a couple more people from the cast. I do want to at least mention them. Franceska P. Roberts, she played Bertha.
Okay.
So Bertha was the bouncer, I think, from the club, right?
Yep, she was the bouncer. She's the one that kind of stole the meteorite from him.
Yeah, she stole the chunk of rock, and then she bounced away with her boots, and then... But I thought it was really peculiar that when she was described to Iggy and Spike, they knew exactly who she was. Like, there's nobody else in the entire Dino Manhattan who would have had red with spikes all over. Like, clearly that was Bertha. Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird that, I guess maybe Mario charmed her, but she just started helping him.
At first he dupes her out of the rock, and then she's helping them out. But, I mean, you never question a Mario's charm.
I guess not.
He said he was going to do it, and he did it. And
he
did it. So she's legally blonde. She's been in...
Okay.
I remember her. She was a recurring character in Seventh Heaven, if you remember that show.
No.
Yeah, Seventh Heaven. I think, was she a recurring character? Let me look it up. Hang on. This is so unprofessional. No, only one time. I thought she was in it more than once. That's my fault. Yeah, she was I think a teacher in Seventh Heaven. That was a show about the minister and all the kids.
Okay, I don't think I ever saw it.
I'm trying to think if she had been anything that people would know her from other than that.
I didn't recognize her.
All right, maybe not. All right, so let's move on. So one other person we have to mention. We have to.
The king?
The king.
Yeah.
The Mushroom King Toadstool. I I don't know what you would say.
Yep. He was yeah, I don't know. In the games, I don't think you ever really know the king. I mean, he's not a person, I don't think.
No, it
It's
wasn't
just princesses.
Yeah, in Mario 3, like there was some like individual princes and stuff, but I don't think there was actually ever a king because you had to they were turned into animals and you had to change them, but I think each little kingdom, but there was never one hierarchy. Anyway, so here's the king played by Lance Henriksen.
Yeah, worst use of Lance Henriksen ever.
Yeah,
I mean wasted potential.
Do we even need to list what he's been in?
I don't know. I think he was an Alien, right? He was the
Aliens.
Aliens. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. He was the second robot.
Yes. I believe it was Bishop.
Yeah, now we're spoiling other stuff.
Yeah, well, I said nothing was
true.
off the table. Everything's fair game.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how it works on Hero Talk, Mike. You can spoil anything you want.
I can spoil any movie.
Soylent Green is people. Did you know that?
Yeah.
It was Earth all along.
You know, Haley Joel Osment sees Bruce Willis dead.
Oh, he's dead?
He's dead. The whole movie.
Yeah. So we can do that. Snape was a good guy the whole time.
Really? Okay.
Yep.
Well, Kaiser Soze is actually Kevin Spacey.
What? No way.
Yeah, the whole time.
Oh, he was telling that whole story and everything.
Yep.
Wow. Just think, they would have never had any possible idea if he was good at making up names off the top of his head.
Yep, he could have got away scot-free.
Nobody would have even been looking for him.
Yep.
Just had to be good about picking up names.
Oh, that is a good movie.
Yeah. Let me think what else he's been in. I think he was in Alien vs. Predator, actually.
Really?
I want to say he played they wanted to play him like he was the prototype for Bishop. So because the character's name, it was Charles Bishop Wayland, from Wayland Kutani. I don't remember
was
the
he
name
in
of the company.
he wasn't in Prometheus, was he? I know one of the
I don't
maybe
remember
not.
if he was in Prometheus. I don't think he was. That's not ringing a bell.
Because I remember them doing that, like making him be like the person who created him or the model that it was based on or something. Okay.
No, I'm trying to.
Yeah, so he shows up and he just basically does a little sight gag with his blows some air out or something. I don't know.
Yeah, he coughed up a
he coughed up a fuzzball
or something. Or a piece of fungus, and he just said, "Love those plumbers."
Yep.
And there you go, Lance Henriksen, everybody.
Yeah.
I can't believe they got it. You know what? And as long as
would anyone have known who he was? I assume Aliens came out before that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean they would have known him from Aliens.
Okay.
Yeah, Aliens was in '86, and he was also in Terminator in '84, and he would have been around.
Okay, because I mean it was obvious that they were trying to get someone that you would recognize there.
Yeah, I heard they tried to get a Bruce Willis cameo in this movie.
Well, maybe that was what they wanted him for then.
They were going to show him crawling through one of the pipes in Koopa's tower.
Okay.
They were going to make it just a Die Hard
just
throwback.
Random thing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He said no. Amazingly enough.
Wow.
Yeah. So why did he turn back into a human? By the way.
Did they shoot him with the evolve gun?
He as soon as Koopa turned into slime and splattered,
you're right.
He just spontaneously turned back into a human. His de-evolution into a fungus, which isn't how that works, was
completely contingent
broken.
on that.
Yeah, it was contingent on Koopa somehow, but none of the other Goombas turned back.
You are right. No, okay. It was just one of many plot holes.
Yeah, okay.
There are some huge plot holes in this movie.
All right, there's nobody else I want to talk about, I don't think.
Okay.
I cannot think of anyone else from this cast who I want to mention right now. I didn't even want to mention who we did mention, quite frankly.
No. Well, we had to.
I guess. I don't know. Did we really have to, though? I mean, did we?
Well, there's enough to talk about this. Yeah, there's enough to talk about. We could have skipped the cast.
Probably. But there was such a good cast. I don't understand what happened.
If all you ever saw was like the poster and maybe like a really well-written synopsis or something, and you never actually saw the movie, it might be okay. You can say, okay, that sounds like a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
But then you see it.
Yeah.
You can't never unsee it.
There was so much wrong with this movie, and there I mean, in terms of plot holes, My notes are just filled with, why did this happen?
Yeah.
Why did this happen?
Why did no one tell Daisy that she hatched from an egg? Like, she grew up at that orphanage. They all saw it happen, but no one, we're not going to tell you. You came out of an egg.
That seems important. But she's going to have that rock around her neck.
Yeah.
Oh, I never take it off.
Sure.
It was found with me when at the orphanage.
Yeah. Let's just keep it with me.
All right.
I don't know. Yeah, and the portal, they have to jump through. They have to jump across a big gap to get into that portal to the other world, right? And they practically kill themselves doing it. And Mario does this unnatural backflip, just falling into it.
Yeah, so like he stumbles, and then all of a sudden he's backflipping
He's upside
into
down. Yeah.
Like, that's not how that works.
No, and when they come out, they should all be dead because they should have exited from that portal and fallen straight down into that cliff. So I have no idea how anyone's still alive after coming back from the Mushroom
Maybe
Kingdom.
the portal gives you like a momentum boost.
Maybe, but Daisy didn't. She tried to get out of it, and Luigi's tugging on her, and she's saying, "Luigi, help me!" And she had no momentum boost. She was just like trying to crawl out of it. So, who knows?
So they weren't consistent.
No.
Well, there was a point that was brought up, and they asked the question. They said, well, like, why doesn't Koopa just use the same portals that everyone else uses? And the explanation given to him was, well, because they were closed until it got blown open.
Yeah. So how did?
Oh, okay, so answer the question.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't sure how. If that's true, then how did Daisy get dropped off 20 years ago? Was it just because her mom was able to open it with that crystal?
Or maybe it wasn't. I don't know. Maybe it got covered with something in the meantime. But
yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense. They're all like, well, he has to merge the worlds. I'm like, okay, but
yeah. How did they even know that was going to work? I mean, they didn't have any science close to that, yet they're able to make this evolution gun and de-evolution and know that the words.
A grand dinosaur prophecy.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It makes very little sense. I mean, I guess if you're a kid, you just go with it. You're like,
right.
Okay, well,
but
that's what you do.
I mean, they had no idea. But the question still remains. When Mario says, why doesn't he just use the same portal? And they think, well, it's the portal was shut until very recently.
Well, it's open now.
It's open now.
Yeah.
The question
and
still
Iggy
stands.
And Spike are going through it. They're doing their thing.
They went through enough times to get, 5 or 6 different girls from Brooklyn?
Yep. Yeah. So, I don't know. Maybe he just didn't need to because all he really cared about was the rock and he thought his cousins were capable. Why he would think that? Don't know.
I don't know. Maybe just because he didn't want to get like Thermopylae right in that narrow pass when they were all coming out, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, he does show up. At the very beginning, Daisy's mom drops her off, and then she's on the run, and then Koopa confronts her. Was she already through the portal then? Because I thought that happened in the tunnels.
Yeah, that happened in the tunnels. So she had already gone through the portal, dropped off Daisy, and gave her the rock instead of hum-chucking that thing in the middle of the river where Koopa would never find it.
Yeah, because I wasn't sure if he was on our side or their side.
They was on our side when she.
So he got through somehow.
So he got through somehow to confront her on her way back. But again, if she had just like taken that rock and just like hum-chucked it in the middle of the Hudson, that would have been it. Problem solved. Because the Koopa didn't really have any way of telling where the rock was, obviously, because
he
nobody
couldn't track it.
Yeah,
he had no
and
idea.
I'm not entirely sure how Iggy and Spike were supposed to figure out where the girl was with the rock, to be honest. But
they had no idea what she looked like.
Yeah.
I guess.
Or how would they know she even still had the rock on her? How did they know the nuns didn't go like, "Wow, this is a worthless chunk of something," and throw it away?
Yeah. Plot holes after plot holes. I don't know why the people, when towards the end, they turn Scarpelli into a monkey. Why does everyone just kind of stand around laughing? Wouldn't you freak? I would freak out. I was like, oh my god,
that should be horrifying to everybody.
Yeah, there's a building appearing in the middle of our city that says K on it, and this guy's turned into a monkey. I'm getting out of here. But no,
instead they're like, silly monkey.
Ha ha ha. Ha ha. Look, you're a monkey.
Yeah. So as long as we're on that scene. And it's things that don't make sense. So they merged the two worlds.
Yep. And why does Mario and
Mario and Bowser, King Koopa, they come through and just
first,
them and the
just
tower.
Randomly.
Yeah. It's like, well, that was convenient that the two pivotal characters in this movie right now are being drawn to the other world. And then once the portal is reshut, Mario and King Koopa go back. And I think, why would Mario go back? He's where he's supposed to be.
Right.
If they were dividing up the worlds, Mario, you would think, would stay. But
he would stay where he's supposed to be. Maybe because he was already there when the split happened. So even though he's from this world, he existed in the other one at that time.
Are you telling me that the magic,
that they thought about it?
The magic asteroid was not able to tell that Mario belonged in our world.
I'm just okay.
Superpowered asteroid.
I'm gonna lay some fake science on you.
Okay.
Here's a fake science. Okay, you got one sheet of paper. It's the Mushroom Kingdom. And you got another sheet of paper, and it's Manhattan. Okay. So even though something used to exist on the top sheet of paper, which is Manhattan, and now it's down on the bottom sheet of paper, it's the Mushroom Kingdom. Well, when they merge, it doesn't matter where they're supposed to be. It just matters where they currently are. So when it splits apart, there you go. Now you're back on the sheet you're supposed to be because that's where you started.
So that right there was more thought than any writer put into the science of this film.
I agree. I mean, if you can evolve and de-evolve, then yeah.
Yeah, because that's how that works.
That's how that works.
Okay.
Yeah, but the plot holes don't end, though. I mean, why do they have to elect King Koopa when he took over 20 years ago?
You don't elect a king, although he overthrew the previous king. And initially, I almost said to myself, so if he was the elected president, should I really be that upset about this? I mean, he overthrew a monarchy. He wasn't elected.
Yeah, but he did it. It's clear that they said, okay, when that was the reason why Daisy had to be taken away as a baby is because King Koopa took over. So why 20 years later are there election posters up for him?
Maybe it's one of those deals where like they have an election, but he's the only name on the ballot, and you have to vote for him.
Just to kind of keep up the pretense.
Yeah, just to make it sound good to all the neighboring nations of Dino.
I guess. Yeah, the neighboring nations in the desert where they're the only city.
So here's other plot points. Well, you know what? I'm just going to go through all of the things that bothered me about this film.
Yeah.
I don't have time for that. I'm going to have to go through just several of these.
Okay.
So if you're Scapelli and you think to yourself, I need this dig site, I'm going to sabotage it, and you send a couple of goons to go sabotage it.
Well, you have to put them in their official uniforms to do that.
Do you want your name written across their backs when they do that?
You do, because I'll tell you why. Because if you don't do that, then the Marios aren't going to know who actually sabotaged it, and they need to know.
And then, because I'm me, when Mario is tightening up that flange. So I don't know, Mike, your experience with tightening up wildly leaking flanges, but I actually have some experience with this. I was in the Navy. It's part of the standard damage control trainer is you learn how to fight the ship and you learn what to do if like you get leaks and stuff and plugging leaks. So what Mario did, I can say fairly confidently, was 100% wrong.
It wouldn't have worked.
It wouldn't have worked. He didn't have the right tools. He was the way he was approaching that flange, that should have been launching his tools across the cave. And the idea that he used like 5 different tools to tighten the same flange, it's like they don't use different sized bolts, right? It's the same size. You just go around.
Okay. Well, whoever was consulting on that failed. They had their plumbers there, and they're supposed to be consulting, and they said, "Sure, just random stuff."
I don't think they actually had plumbers.
Oh, of course not.
And then there was remember when they got into the Dino Tower thing there, and Mario realized it was the heating system. He's like, "Here, we're gonna turn off the heat."
Yeah, why does that freeze everything?
Yeah, like okay, why would that freeze everything? Is everything naturally just frozen and the heat keeps it warm?
Which doesn't make sense. They're in a desert, right? I mean, everything is in a desert, so...
Yeah, that didn't make sense. And why would he even freeze? He never even mentions why he did that. He's like, in case I have to shoot down these pipes later on a mattress, I'm going to want to have them nice and frozen.
It's going to need to be Yeah. It was just setting up something later. There was no rhyme or reason to it.
Right. I mean, I would have just liked a little explanation, just something like, why are you freezing them out? It's like, because they're lizards. They're cold-blooded, anything. It would have been one line, and it would have made it seem like it made more sense than for him to think, like, I'm just going to make it cold because I'm Mario. That's what I do.
In the movie, for all the plot holes that I picked out and all the things I have a problem with, they pulled the wool over my eyes a lot of times because I didn't even think about that. It's okay. I just went with it. Okay, he's gonna turn off the heat. It's gonna freeze things. I never questioned it. What in the world? That movie, it has a way of getting into you. It tricks you.
It basically kind of overloads that part of your brain that says, what is this I'm watching? To the point where eventually at the end of the movie, you're just like, whatever, I don't care. It's freezing the pipes.
Yeah. The same with when the police car, they're doing their chase and it lands on top of another car and the driver underneath just keeps on going like nothing happened. Okay, well, that's probably in this situation. I guess that's what that guy would do. He wouldn't pull over. He'd he would just keep on going, and that's what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, bearing in mind that almost immediately following that scene, and we actually finally get to see them wearing their colors. Incidentally, as long as we're talking about it, they weren't the traditional coveralls. Did you like the costumes, like the red and the green when they finally got them on?
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with it. It was good enough that you knew who they were. I think that's...
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I wish they would have found a way to get those things on about 30 minutes prior.
Well, it would have been interesting if that had just been their uniform. Like maybe a variation of it was their work uniform.
Yeah, you know, and they had Mario on the back or whatever.
Yeah.
That was their Mario Brothers uniform, and that's what they wore to job sites. I would have been absolutely okay with that. Speaking of job sites, as long as I'm going off on a tangent, I don't care.
No, that's cool.
At the very beginning of the movie, when Luigi is trying to navigate by feel through New York City because that works somehow.
Yeah, he just knew.
And Scapelli beats them to the job. I couldn't help but think, like, so what happened? Did this restaurant call Mario and Scapelli at the same time and say to themselves, all right, first one here gets to work?
Yeah, and obviously Scapelli has way more resources. If they were going to call him, why did they bother calling Mario at all?
Right.
Like, this is just a guy. He doesn't know what he's doing half the time, and he's got his guy. And this is another topic we can talk about. It's not even his actual brother. This guy that's with him that is like a brother.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the two of them. But no, we're going to call both these guys.
Yeah, it seemed odd. So, but it's so frustrating, and I don't know
why they change things like that though. As far as Luigi and Mario are brothers. Did you get that from this? That they're not actually brothers? Like,
yeah, Mario just kind of raised him. And
yeah.
He took him under his wing, and they're not really brothers, but like he still has Mario's last name, which is Mario.
Luigi Mario.
Which I think stuck. I want to say that's still part of the lore.
It's canonical, and it may have been even before that. But
I want to say that's the first time that's ever been mentioned. Yeah.
Well, that may be the only thing that this movie influenced then, because it's. I don't know why they needed to change that though. I was like, the only thing I can think of is there's a scene they're having dinner and Mario's girlfriend's there and Daisy's there, and maybe to draw some sort of similarity between Luigi and Daisy. Maybe to say we've got something in common. Look, I don't know.
We're both orphans or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, but it went nowhere, unless they were trying to fool us into thinking maybe Luigi was in the egg, but they dispel that because she says I'm raised from the orphanage. So I don't know.
It didn't make any sense to me why they would change that. However, again, we have a lasting mark to the lore, and that's Mario and Luigi Mario, and a scene that was actually fairly well charming. With do we even want to mention that the sergeant guy, Don Lake?
I've seen that guy in stuff too.
He's a character actor. Police Academy, Hot Shots.
Okay.
I want to say he was in Terminator 2.
Okay.
He was a voice in Zootopia, and he had a recurring role on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Okay. Yeah, I knew I recognized him.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but anyway, where I was going originally is so right after we see him freeze the pipes, they had that ridiculous dancing Goomba scene.
Oh, the waltz. Yeah, in the elevator.
Yeah,
it was the first time. Okay.
Why? Because why would that even be a scene?
I don't know. I mean, something came from that though. I mean, later on in the Goombas, they are easier to they're able to convince them to dance,
but that was just Toad, and Toad wasn't there to see that.
Yeah, I don't know. I just for the kids. That's my answer for all this stuff. It was for the kids.
It was. This is a hard movie to watch.
It wasn't that. That was it the Danube Waltz or something? I mean, it was something.
Yeah. It was something very well known that they shouldn't
have been there. No. Kind of like Walk the Dinosaur. I don't know how they ended up with that.
Because they were dinosaurs and it was funny, and I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. I will say, I actually had the soundtrack to this movie.
Oh yeah, did that song come from this movie, or was it they just kind of?
No, that song was around for a while before the movie, but they picked it up for the soundtrack. But I had the soundtrack. Actually, it's not a bad album, honestly.
I don't doubt it. I mean, I was a fan of Roxette, at least for Joyride. I think that was their big tune. Yeah. So I like that Roxette song at the end. That's like one of the best parts of the movie.
Did you catch that? As soon as the credits started, before they even mentioned anything else, they put up "Almost Unreal" by Roxette.
Roxette, yep.
I was like, they haven't even started with Mario. Mario doesn't even get credit, and they're already talking to. This is the song you're listening to. I'm sure that had to be part of how they got Roxette to do it.
Could have been.
Yeah, but I mean, it was I'm looking at these songs. I remember each one of them. I listened to this album. I had it on a cassette because I'm old.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep. Yeah.
I mean,
90s still cassettes. Yeah.
Almost Unreal, Love Is the Drug, Walk the Dinosaur, I Would Stop the World, I Want You, that wasn't going, Where Are You Going? That was a weird song, but I liked it. Joe Satriani, the legendary guitarist Joe Satriani, played the song Speed of Light, which was what played when Mario was riding down the mattress in the...
Okay.
Yeah.
For some reason, that reminded me of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I don't know if it was like Napoleon going down the water slide or what it was, but that
like
whole...
the Tubes of Time thing when they're riding on it.
Maybe that. Maybe
Yeah.
I think it was a combination of the song and the angle or something. I don't know.
Yeah. But you had Megadeth, you had Queen. There was.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it was a pretty
I
decent
didn't even
soundtrack.
catch most of those. So yeah, that was a good soundtrack.
So even knowing a lot of the stuff, I still didn't catch like a lot of the stuff. Like I know the Megadeth song, it's Breakpoint. I couldn't catch it in the movie. I knew Tie Your Mother Down. I didn't catch it in the movie. It was
Sometimes they do that. I think sometimes there are songs on a soundtrack that if they were in the movie at all, it must have been like playing on a radio that you just couldn't have even noticed.
I mean, Almost Unreal, Love Is the Drug, and Walk the Dinosaur. Those were big ones, and I remember exactly where they were. And Speed of Light, that was obviously had its own scene, but if they weren't featured like that, I couldn't place them.
Yeah. What do you think about like the sound effects and sight gags? I mean, was it just...
There were certain sound effects I liked. Like, I like how they definitely worked some of the sound effects from the game into like the computers. I heard the 1-up sound come from more than one computer screen while they were working it.
You are way more observant than me because I had on my notes that they used no sounds from the game.
Oh,
so.
I know for at the very least I heard the 1-up sound. Particularly, I want to say it happened once in the Devo machine room, similar to the 1-up sound, and once in the room with Daisy and the King when she was using the computer. I want to say it made a 1-up sound.
Okay, well that's cool. I mean, most of the sounds were just, like when they de-evolved Toad and they put the harmonica on him, you hear a harmonica sound even though his mouth never even touches it.
Not even close to it. Yep.
Yeah, and just like the cousins turn their neck and you hear crunching sounds, and they just it's like it's very obviously made as a cartoon. It's like this is supposed to be a live action cartoon and it's for kids, and the sight gags, like one of the cousins walking into a glass panel is like the oldest movie gag in the book, and the boing when the fungus saves the car from falling down.
It's just boing, and I mean all the fungus sounds, especially when Mario jumps and the fungus is like springboarding him back up again. First of all, how does Luigi think he's flying? Like, how does he
how does he not realize
how does he not figure that out? Like, you really think you're flying? You don't feel that tightness right around your waist like you're hanging from your belt?
No, of course not. He was in the moment. He wouldn't have noticed something like that.
Maybe Luigi was hitting some of the tequila. I don't know. That just struck me as so strange and odd that he was like, "Oh, I'm actually flying.
I'm
How
flying,
about that?
Mario. I'm flying. Try it." Yeah, that reminds me of a joke. Yeah, maybe another time.
All right, yeah. In my notes, I actually wrote the sentence, Luigi is too dumb to know he's not flying.
Yep. Yeah, which is surprising. I mean, I thought, like I said before, I thought Luigi was probably the best character. But he had a couple of misses, though.
He did.
And on a slight tangent, there was, and I never understood this, but towards the end of the movie where one of the girls says, "Well, who are you?" And he goes, "I'm Luigi Mario. You got a problem with that?" It's like he just suddenly got an attitude, like out of nowhere. It's like that was uncalled for.
It really was. It was almost like there were cut scenes where he had to explain the name thing more than once to the point where he was just done with it. And he finally said, "I'm Luigi Mario." Okay?
Yep. And my theory was maybe because he's the second player in the game, maybe it's kind of just and they didn't think it through this much, but maybe because, he's always the second player. He's second fiddle to Mario, but in this, he's the main guy here. So his confusion or his anger is deserved because, he's always the second guy. But that's probably giving him too much credit.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I actually got really sick of the music that they constantly played for all of the funny gag Mario Brothers doing stuff. It was the same. And this is like some canned music because I've heard it in probably a dozen other movies, but that weird saxophone, like do 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 do.
Oh yeah,
and they played it all the time. Yeah, I mean, like from the beginning of the movie when they're driving the cars to the end of the movie when they're waving to everyone from the stomp boots. They're playing that same song.
That's another one that they pulled the wool over my eyes because I didn't even. I get it now that you say it, but it didn't jump out at me.
Oh, It drove me nuts. Anyway, what do you think of the in terms of the Mario Brothers, just the lore in general, not specific just to this movie, but when they talk, do you prefer the Italian accent or the Brooklyn accent?
I don't know. Probably the Italian accent. The Brooklyn one just kind of grates on me, I think.
I mean, I'm of two minds. On the one hand, Mario has had a super thick Italian accent for a long time now, even though it sort of makes him an ethnic stereotype.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he's allegedly supposed to be from Brooklyn, and I don't know. The Super Mario Brothers Super Show, he had a super thick Brooklyn accent in that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's just because of that. I kind of felt it was refreshing the first time I heard Mario talk, and it wasn't a high-pitched Italian accent.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah,
Although,
and this was before I think this is before he ever spoke the words, "It's me, Mario."
Yes.
We were talking about music just a little bit ago, and I just wanted to circle back to one thing that I forgot to mention. I would have liked to hear more music inspired by the game. Like at the very beginning, there's the World 1-1 theme, a little bit, and on the DVD, it loops. It kind of gets boring, but
yeah.
I would have liked to have heard something like from Super Mario World, like something maybe not like 8-bit or 16-bit music, but something inspired by that. But there wasn't anything like that. So for me, that kept it, in a lot of ways, it kept it from feeling like Super Mario Brothers because there wasn't enough of that music in it. It was like what you said, the saxophone thing that got used to death.
Yeah,
so I was disappointed by that.
I mean, and there are a lot of places you could do it. Like when there's a final confrontation with Mario and Koopa, you have the Bowser's Castle theme you could play.
Yeah.
They
were underground.
They're underground.
They could have used
Come on,
the underground
there
theme.
you go.
They just didn't do it.
That really
opportunity.
Yeah, they should have.
I wonder if it was a licensing thing. I mean, they had license to the whole character thing. Could they not have included more music, or maybe they just didn't think it was necessary?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Honestly, I don't know.
It was a shame, though. I would have really liked to see more of that or hear more of that.
Yeah. Should we mention Yoshi? Do we want to mention Yoshi?
Yeah, my kids were confused by Yoshi. Like,
I was confused by Yoshi, and I know who
Yoshi is. He's a real dinosaur?
Yeah.
I mean, they try. I don't know. They tried. I mean, he even had his iconic tongue. He used that a couple times, but he was like I don't know. We can mention him. I don't have a lot to say.
All right. You know what? That's all I want to mention.
Yeah. You talk too much.
I'm getting so frustrated. Why did Iggy and Spike just suddenly turn on Koopa for no reason at all?
Oh, yes, that's another of my plot holes. Is like they start out, they're going to team up with the Mario Brothers just for the purpose of trading the rock for Daisy. That's all it is.
Which I thought was very, very practical on their part.
And then they end up at a club and they're plotting against him. They're plotting his overthrow for no apparent reason.
And that came out of nowhere because originally it felt like it was a very pragmatic plan. They thought Koopa only needs the rock. The girl is inconsequential. They only seem to care about the girl. They don't care at all about the rock. Yes, let's work together for this ends. I was like, wow, that was very pragmatic of the Koopa cousins, the Mario brothers, to come up with.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden they're at the bar and like, King Koopa, he can't go down fast enough. I'm like, well, that was...
Yeah, they just
that escalated
turned
quickly.
Yeah, I didn't get that either, but I think it could be, and I don't know, but it could be deleted scenes or cut scenes or like things that changed in the script but didn't actually get written around correctly.
I usually just attribute it to they probably changed the script and they didn't...
Had to have been.
It affected those scenes, but they just didn't reshoot it or re-edit it or whatever.
Yeah, because there was no explanation for it. Maybe they got smart, even though we established they weren't really, but maybe they just sat there and wisened up and said, well, we're back in the wrong team, so I don't know.
I mean, I guess it seemed very... It was almost as sudden as Bertha deciding, you know what, I want to help the Mario brothers too.
Yep. There were a lot of tournaments, Mario freezing the pipes. Just people just made a decision for... No reason whatsoever.
Nobody had motivation. They just did things.
Yeah.
It just
happened.
I don't know.
Can we talk? There's one scene that I just want to get your take on.
Oh boy. Okay.
And it has to do with Koopa hitting on Daisy. Do you remember this scene, or did you watch it?
I remember this because it was so
cringy.
It was uncomfortable to watch.
I almost didn't want to watch it the second time. I almost didn't want to watch it the first time. But he's like, "You're so fresh and so clean," and just oh my god, how did this make it into the movie?
It's. If there's one thing I've learned from doing this podcast for as long as I have, is that, man, things have changed. Because, I mean, I see stuff like this in a lot of movies from the 90s where you think, well, this was okay. I mean, like,
at the time. Yeah, it's so... But this particular...
it was extremely uncomfortable. I mean,
It
it
was.
was, and for a
Right,
movie
like-
that's meant for 8-year-olds, it was
Yes.
creepifying.
And
Ugh.
that's what I was thinking, is like, how are kids not like, what's going on here? That's weird. Yeah, that was not a good scene.
Oh, it was not good. I don't like that. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about? Because I
Well,
don't want to talk
yeah.
about anything else.
Okay. Well, I hate to force you. I know this.
All right, go ahead. What do you got?
It's been a rough. Well,
What do
I'm
you got?
just I'm looking through here. I mean, there were some other quotes. There was some other scenes, like this when Mario and Luigi first arrive in the Mushroom Kingdom and they see those two little dinosaurs. They're like fighting over some grub or some fungus or something. Do you remember what Mario does? He's like, "Oh my God, look at that!" He's like this really weird, freaked out, unnatural. This line delivery is, "Oh my God, look at that."
Yeah, it seemed a little over the top, but
It was very weird. I think I might have laughed out loud, but not because it was actually funny.
yeah.
All right, I don't think there's really too much more. Luigi saying Mario a lot. I
He
think
does say Mario an awful lot, considering it's
Yeah.
his brother.
It's his brother, and he's supposed to be Mario.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing about, I think the very first time I saw this movie, and I should have known better, but I think I was surprised that it turned out that the fungus was the king. And then when I watched it, I've watched it twice just for this, and Toad tells them that the fungus is the king. Like, he's like halfway through the movie, he tells them that, and then
Yeah.
everyone is saying, "Oh, well, the king, he's around."
Mhm.
So I should never have surprised anyone. Are we giving the producers too much credit for the car chase scene? Because that's kind of like Mario Kart, just came out the prior year, and I think the answer is yes. They probably had no idea.
Yeah,
They just
had
wanted
no
a car
idea.
chase scene.
I think they were actually trying to they were trying to throw back to Mad Max, honestly.
Okay, and you may be right, because the cars were like that with like
Yeah.
the cages and the
I definitely
rough
got a
doors.
Mad Max feel from that car chase scene, and I think that was supposed to be a bigger scene than it actually was.
Very well made. But I was thinking, I was giving it a little bit of credit, like, maybe Mario Kart, because they're driving around, but who knows? And I don't know. I think maybe that's it. Everything else is probably minor enough that we would just be a waste of time.
More wasteful than what
Than
we've
what it's
already
already
done.
been.
Yeah.
Yeah, even more than that.
I can't believe I've watched this movie twice in the last week.
Oh,
Honestly.
me too. I have too, and I've got 4 pages of notes. Like, what happened? What did this movie do to me?
Yeah, I mean, it's you can almost all of my notes could have been boiled down to one single word: why.
Yep.
Just
Mine too.
why. Anyway, I can't. All right, you know what? Let's start wrapping it up. Let's put it to bed. Now is the time on Hero Talk. We're going to talk what our favorite scenes were, and I think for this movie we can break out an old favorite. We're also going to talk about our least favorite. So we'll start with favorite and then we'll go to least favorite because wow, I think this movie earned it.
Yep. I agree.
All right, Mike, what was your favorite? If you could possibly get a favorite scene.
Well, I do have one.
Okay.
It's a very short scene, but I enjoyed it. Okay. It's the scene where I forgot what you said his name was, but he's like the police chief, and he's kind of sitting up there on his pedestal, and some woman with her giving him the most uncomfortable high heel back massage ever.
That was kind of creepy. Yeah.
Yep. But there's Luigi, and he's all optimistic, and he's explaining that between the two of them there are 3 Marios and 1 Luigi. Like, he's Mario and I'm Luigi Mario. And he's like, which one are you, Luigi? Very short scene, but if I had to pick a favorite, that's it.
I'll give you that, and I know other people. Kinetic, another Enthusiac, host of the Behind the Line Radio podcast, he also says that's his favorite scene in this movie.
Oh yeah, well, then I have good taste.
Yes. So my favorite scene is going to be when Mario is riding the mattress down the pipes.
Okay.
For a couple of reasons. First of all, because one of the few times Mario actually had something to do. Because he was
actually being a hero at that point.
He was actually accomplishing something, because he didn't really accomplish an awful lot after that, because I think his big heroic scene was cut. And also because I really like Joe Satriani, and that's when they played the Joe Satriani song. So
okay. Oh, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so that's where I got that. Now, least favorite scene. I'm gonna have to think about this because there's a lot of contenders.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's the scene with Koopa hitting on Daisy.
I definitely see. There's so many good ones. Is Koopa just sitting in mud? Because
why?
why?
Just because why? Well, and for some reason, his take on mud is that it's clean and dirty. So I didn't know. How's it clean?
But it's not. It didn't even look like mud. It looked like gravy.
No, it probably was.
Oh man, Dennis Hopper is a professional.
Yeah, he messed up.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I'm gonna go with the mud scene. Cause
Yeah.
why? Just because.
I guess if I had a second least favorite scene, maybe it was the second appearance of Koopa where he's doing his 30-second explanation of the meteor. Like, this is just unnecessary.
Yeah, that was rough. The lawyer scene was kind of rough.
Which is the lawyer scene?
When Koopa's pretending to be their lawyer.
Yeah, and he's saying he's an egg-sucking son of a gun
or snake or something like that.
Yeah. And then you know what? The whole movie is the least favorite scene.
I know. Why? Why is Koopa a germaphobe? Like, what? Who came up with that?
I don't know. I can't remember that from any of the games. They had to add some plot. I think that's what it was. We gotta have a story. So Koopa's gonna be a germaphobe.
Yeah. So before we move on, I haven't done this before. I didn't warn you I was going to do it. But that's okay. I didn't do any prep work.
Okay.
If let's say hypothetically some high ups Mario Nintendo executives are listening to Hero Talk like they do all the time.
Okay.
And they hear us and they say, "Hey, you know what, Mike, Greg, you guys made some really good points. We want to do another Mario movie. How would we fix this?" So I guess, Mike, how would we fix Super Mario Brothers? How could we make this movie good?
I don't think you can make this movie good.
Okay,
but
well,
I think
this movie, but a Mario movie.
Yeah, I think there's a world where there could be a good Super Mario Brothers, and I think maybe these days, you see things like the Marvel movies that take take some really crazy subject matter but do it justice, and they treat it with respect, and it can be, kids can like it, but grown-ups can like it too. Maybe taking some inspiration from Pixar where they're able to do things with movies that they're for kids, but there's a maturity to it, and it doesn't disrespect the adults. And I think that they have to have that mindset, like from the outset. They have to think about it as something that's not just going to be just slapstick.
Do you think there's room for a live action, or do you think this basically it's CGI or go home?
That's a good point. I think that it would be very tough to do live action Mario, especially since the games themselves are, you're jumping and I think this is why a lot of movies based on video games don't succeed anyways, because what you remember from the video games is doing the jumping on the Goombas and practicing the levels and getting through the levels and just all the things that you can't put in a movie because it wouldn't be fun. It wouldn't be interesting just to show that. So that's why all video game movies, but especially Mario, because there's very little lore to draw. I mean, well, not lore, but very little story to draw on. Mm-hmm. To do a movie, I think you may be onto something. If it could be animated, if it could be like a Pixar quality Mario movie that was given a serious treatment and not slapstick, and it understood that adults have been with Mario too, and kids like Mario, so let's build all this together and come up with a good story, come up with something that's not crazy de-evolving dinosaurs and toad people that aren't. And I think that it's never going to happen. I think they, Nintendo was burned by this, and that's never going to happen.
I don't think Nintendo's ever going to license their product for a movie ever again.
Probably not. Unless, there's a world it could happen if they were approached by someone respected, or maybe someone with, maybe not though. It hasn't happened since. So
I want to believe that there's a world where a live action Mario could work, even if you have to do like a CG King Koopa or something. But
yeah, there's. If it had the budget and if it had, the creative vision behind it, then probably.
I guess I kind of see the ideal world being, you almost have to do it like The Wizard of Oz. Because that's the closest analogy I can really think of in terms of, so you're in the regular world, except instead of Kansas, it's Brooklyn. And something happens, either they go down a secret special storm pipe, or maybe they should have to find themselves. Daisy should not be in the real world.
Right.
Peach, they got to use Peach now because now we know who it is.
Yeah.
But when they do go to the Mushroom Kingdom, it's like Wizard of Oz. Like, we don't know how we got here. We don't know how to get back. And maybe, Princess Peach could probably get you back. But, it turns out she's being held captive in this castle by King Koopa. And they're like, all right, well then I guess we're going to have to follow the breakable brick road to get to King Koopa. And then you can meet up with a Toad along the way and a Yoshi along the way.
Well, yeah, that is a Wizard of Oz, isn't it?
And, and so, yeah, they'll deal, instead of having to deal with a witch all the time, there'll be Koopas, and, you might...
And maybe they discover they have powers in this other world.
Yeah, maybe in this other world, they find that they can jump very high, and that they are stronger, and, they find a fire flower, and...
Yeah.
And then, in the pinnacle of the movie, in the climax, they find a star, stuff like that comes directly from the game.
Mm-hmm. Makes them invincible.
I think you can do it, but instead of trying to make it Blade Runner, you got to make it Wizard of Oz.
Okay, yeah, that's a way better idea than mine was way vague.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm with you there. I would like to see that, but
yeah, it's never going to happen. All right, so now is the time when we give the movie a score, and as I want to do, I want to remind my listening audience that review scores are dumb and they don't matter. I mean, honestly, you've just heard us talk about this for a long time. You already know what we think. The number of whatever it is I'm about to assign could not possibly have any less meaning than we're about to give it. But out of tradition on Hero Talk, we give scores. Mike, you ready to go? You have a score?
I've got a score. Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Mike. What would you score? I
rate it 3 actors that should have known better and 1 wasted Lance Henriksen.
That's, you know what? That's probably more than it deserved.
Yep.
I would give this movie 1 walking, horrifying, Reebok endorsed ba-bomb.
Okay. And it blows up in your face. Because,
wow. Just wow. I can't believe that.
This movie happened. I can't believe that.
This is a thing, and there are people listening to us right now saying, these guys, they don't know what they're talking about. I saw it in the theaters. I don't know what else you want from me.
Yeah.
I've never liked this movie. That the actors in it thought it was an awful movie while they were in it. The directors thought the movie was so bad they stopped showing up to the set. I don't know how to say it was a great movie. I don't know.
It's not a great movie. Yeah. You might actually get some hate mail over this. The super fans are going to come out.
If you were young enough to have seen it and thought this was a great movie, I totally get the nostalgia factor. I absolutely do. But I wasn't. I was old enough to recognize it was a weird movie, and I still think it's a weird movie, and it has not aged great. I've seen this movie many, many times. I should point out, this is the kind of movie that I used to take with me when I was on deployment. Because it's
to punish people?
It's just the kind of movie that, when you want to be like, oh, have you seen this awful movie? Let's watch this movie now. It was that kind of movie. And so, I understand, and I've watched it too, and I think there is some inherent value to having it. I actually owned it on DVD. It wasn't like something that I wasn't. I had to go buy it. You had to go buy it.
I had to go buy it. I bought it twice because I wasn't sure the one I ordered online was going to get here in time.
Oh, I am so sorry.
It's okay. It was $9 total.
I mean, at least your kids like it, right?
Yeah, I may even give the copies I have to them.
Yeah, but yeah, I did not like it. Obviously,
I didn't like it either.
I dug out my copy to watch it again for Hero Talk, and it was.
I'm sorry. I think it wasn't my idea. I think because I'm video game generations, I wanted a video game movie.
I'll take credit. I came up with it. We were looking at video game movies because you were video game generations, and I thought it would at least be appropriate. And I think you had pitched Assassin's Creed.
Oh yeah, that would have been a good one to do too.
And I was thinking about doing it, and I thought to myself, that's a good one. It's like, oh, you know what? Because I had just recorded a Behind the Line Radio where we were talking about bad movies versus bad games. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, in any topic where bad movies comes up, the Mario Brothers movie did get brought up. So it was fresh in my head, and I thought, hey, I've mentioned this a couple of times on different podcasts. I've never done a Hero Talk on it. It seems like I'm overdue.
Perfect, yeah.
It was perfect. I mean, like, and the thought was, you and I would have been of a certain age where we knew the context of the movie,
Yep.
And I suggested it, and you thought it was a great idea, so we're going to go ahead and go 60-40 on this, and, and here we are.
What was this movie? An hour and a half? Maybe not even that much. So that's whatever double that is. That's time for my life I'll never get back. But it's fun talking with you about it. I don't regret it.
Yeah, it was an hour and 4 minutes runtime, by the way.
Okay.
Or no, not an hour 4 minutes. 104 minutes. 1 hour and 44 minutes.
Okay, that sounds about right.
So, incidentally, we have now been talking about this movie longer.
Yep.
It'll probably be less in post, but for those who are listening, the raw audio was longer than the running time of the movie.
Yeah. How did we do that? It doesn't seem like there should have been. I guess there was just so much.
There was so much.
You led with that. There was so much.
There was so much that was just why. And to try to anyway, I don't know. So
We didn't even talk about the post-credit scene.
No, we didn't. We didn't talk about the post-credit scene or the sequel tease.
Was there a sequel tease?
Remember, right?
Oh
at the
yes,
end?
you're right. Right before
Yeah.
the credits rolled. Okay.
Yeah, so that was totally inspired by Back to the Future.
Yep.
And I hear tell that when that scene was written, the thought process is that in the sequel there would be Donkey Kong.
Okay. Interesting. Maybe then they would have introduced Pauline.
Maybe.
But
But
maybe not.
anyway, obviously there is no sequel. And then of course the end credit scene where we see
Yeah.
the Japanese executives, and we're led to believe that they are now approaching the Mario Brothers to try to make the game that was the inspiration for the movie.
Yeah.
And then the joke payoff at the end is they're actually talking to Iggy and Spike, who have decided to cross over into our world and just stay there, I guess.
Yep.
And they pitch the Super Koopa Cousins.
Well, they pitch a couple of things, didn't they? Super Koopa Cousins or...
Yeah.
And that's a good way to end it.
Yeah, and that was... all right. So there it is. It's done. It's done. We finally have the hero talk on the Super Mario Brothers film. Now is the time for final thoughts. Mike, this is open freeform. Anything you want to say about any topic at all? Go ahead. It's your soapbox. Any final thoughts?
You know what? Not really.
No.
I feel beat down by this movie.
Yeah, I get you. So just for final thoughts, I just want to give some shout outs to the people. As I said, I teased this on Twitter yesterday, and I got a lot of replies from people who just had a lot to say and contribute. So shout outs to Tony from the No Time for Time Travel podcast, for the Dark Princess from Enthusiacs, Jen, for a loyal follower of the Hero Talk podcast, Mike at Cugino Bambino. He was a fan of the movie and he was excited we were doing it. John Layola from One Track Punk Show.
Oh yeah, John.
And One Track Gamers podcast. Exelon from Enthusiacs, Hero Talk staple, YouTube extraordinaire. We got the Monster Closet guys. So we got a shout out from that podcast saying that this might be the worst movie we've ever done. A ton of conversations about this. So Kinetic, as I've mentioned before, Kinetic from Enthusiacs, host of Behind the Line Radio podcast. Anthony Rossi, who's the host of the Video Game Crosstalk podcast, got in on it to throw some shade out there. We got Brendan from Almost Better Than Silence podcast. A lot of people in the discussion show. Shout outs to everybody for caring so much. I hope it lived up to your expectation or down to your expectation. I don't know how that worked out.
Yeah, I hope.
But thanks everybody. All right, so Mike, thanks for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me.
All right, and so Mike, where can people find you if they want to get a hold of you?
Usually on Twitter. You can follow me. I am at VG Generations. That's pretty much, I hang out on Twitter. We're on Facebook. I'm not even going to mention that. Our website is vggpodcast.com. And if you just go to your podcast app of choice and you look for Video Game Generations, we're right there. We're pretty much everywhere.
And if you go to enthusiacs.com for the Super Mario Brothers, the film Hero Talk, I will have links to Mike's Twitter and to the website for Video Game Generations in the show notes, so you can check it out there.
Cool.
All right, so that was it. Mike, thank you.
That was it. That was
Thank you
a blast.
very much. All right.
You are welcome.
If you want to listen to any more podcasts from the Enthusiacs Network, just check out enthusiacs.com. You can also search for the Enthusiacs on your podcatcher of choice. You can find us on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. Just search for Enthusiacs. And until next time, this is Judge Greg saying, trust the fungus.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, go ahead. I don't even know where I was going with that.